If you were there as the head coach, as this is happening, what would you have done to try to get this thing back on track and unruffle feathers and reach a conclusion that you would have agreed with? We keep Micah Parsons.
Well, I was in this situation a lot with players. And as a coach, you don't want to get in the middle of negotiations. You're always for the player. You want to defend the player, assuming that you want them. But at the same time, you do represent the organization. So you want to let the money people, you want to let the player's agent and the financial representative from the team, in this case, Jerry Jones, handle that stuff. But you're always trying to support it from both sides. You're trying to, in conversations with the player, explain, hey, this is what they're thinking, this is why. And at the same time, you're talking to ownership or the decision maker to say, hey, this is why this guy's important. This is why we can go a little higher for this guy, because here's how we're going to use him, or here's how his impact is going to be. So you're really working both sides of it to get the resolution that you want. And that happened a lot with us through the years. I think about Zach Martin and, Tyron Smith to a certain extent, and Des Bryant and some of the other guys that we had who were in these contract situations. So again, you're trying to support both sides of it and come to the conclusion that you want, because you want the player. You want these guys on your team.
Jason, we've talked a lot about negotiating, and Jerry Jones, I mean, you were there as a player, you were there as an assistant coach and a head coach. I'm sure you've negotiated with Jerry Jones. What's it like to be in that situation with Jerry?
Yeah, I have. 2 times as the head coach. He and I really did the deal together, and it just was a matter of maybe setting it up with your agent. My agent was Dave Dunn. I know he had conversations with Stephen Jones prior to it, but then at the end of it, you walk into the room and you talk about it, and you say, this is what I think it should be, this is what I want, this is what he wants, and you just go back and forth and you figure it out. And trust me, I'm no expert on signing a lot of contracts, but it seemed like it was a common sense thing to be able to do. And I understand it with a head coach, because the head coach and the owner are really in partnership, and you're going to have a lot of discussions about money with players through the years and personnel through the years, and you need to be able to have some hard conversations. I get that. I'm a little less inclined to have that be the way to do it with a player. I think there should be a formal representative involved. And if ultimately there's a 10-minute conversation at the end where you come in together and you say, hey, I know this is what your guy's saying, this is what we're saying. If you want to do that, if it's all set up and you kind of do it almost as a formality together, I understand that with a player. But coaches and players, they're not savvy enough. Jerry Jones is a multi-billionaire for a reason. He's been doing this his whole life. He's an elite business person. We all know that. So he's been in these kind of conversations a lot more than any of us have been in. But I understand it with a head coach, less so with players.
I want to play this out a little bit. If you're there as the head coach and it's a given that Micah Parsons is going to be traded, and then you say, well, okay, where are we trading him to? And they say the Green Bay Packers. What do you say in response to that?
Well, let's not do that. Is there anybody else who's interested? Let's get him over in the AFC, And so who knows? And I'm sure that conversation came up. You don't want to trade him in the division. You don't want to trade him, in the conference if you can. To a rival like Green Bay. So you would try to dissuade that decision, but who knows? Who knows what other deals are on the table if anybody else was interested. And obviously in that situation, you say, okay, 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark, that's good, but this is Micah Parsons. This is a transformational player. Can we get more? People have made the comparison to the Herschel Walker deal. Go back and look at what the Cowboys got for Herschel Walker. A lot more than they've gotten from Micah Parsons. And you can make a compelling argument that the defensive lineman with 52 sacks in 4 years is a more valuable commodity than the great Herschel Walker, as great as he was.
Jason, you coached for a long time, and I can hear it. Our audience can hear it. I mean, it's a lot of experience and confidence in what you're saying. Compare that to, let's say go back your first year of coaching, being a head coach. That's where Brian Schottenheimer is right now. He probably doesn't feel like he has the authority to say what you just said. Just what do you think it's like from his position as a first-time head coach? You've got so many things flying around you anyway, and then add in your best defensive player is holding out and eventually gets traded. What do you think that's like for him?
Well, one thing I would say as a player and as assistant coach, and certainly as a head coach, that I can look back on, and I was always very honest with the Joneses about where I stood on positions. You know, hey, we're thinking about making this decision. I agree with it or I disagree with it. Here's why. And so oftentimes those decisions don't go your way, like in any organization. Every head coach has a boss, whether it's a general manager or an owner general manager, and everything that you want to do, you can't do. You're not the ultimate decision maker in the organization. So the one thing that I can reflect back fondly on is I always shared my thoughts with the Joneses on all the decisions. When I became the head coach in 2011, we were in a rebuilding mode. We got rid of 3 big-time offensive linemen, veteran players who were really good, who had gotten older, and they were making a lot of money. And we had gotten rid of another one the year before. So we were essentially starting again. And, you know, it was challenging for me. And I shared why I thought we might do that more gradually than we decided to do it. But the cupboard was bare up front on the offensive line. And you know, those were hard decisions because, hey, I want to win the first game. And, you know, we pulled back as an organization and said, hey, it might not be the best thing for us right now, but we think over time that's going to be a good thing. And it took us a little while to rebuild the line. We drafted Tyron Smith the first year, and then Travis Frederick and Zach Martin. And we went from having the worst offensive line in football to the best. And that made a huge impact on our team. So hopefully Brian is doing the same thing. He's sharing what he thinks with the Joneses. He might not ultimately agree with this decision, but hopefully he expressed himself and the why he thinks it's a good idea to keep him, or why he agreed with the decision to move on, and then you go together on it. You know, again, ultimately, you're not always going to be the guy who gets everything that you want when you're the head coach of a football team. Ask Coach Belichick. You know, he said that, you know, relative to Coach Kraft, to Robert Kraft, and to Jonathan Kraft. But you know, hopefully you express yourself. You're clear with everybody as to what you think, and then you proceed forward.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.